I'm going to do a little two-part video. The first part is just going to be an overview, talking about this clock, what I like, what I don't like. And then we're going to jump into how to use it. So if you just watch the first half, that's fine. The second half, like I say, it will be more about how to do some of the setup and functionality, because it could be a little confusing for some people, I've come to find out. But overall, it's not too bad. So the good thing about it is it's very small. I consider this a portable Bluetooth speaker alarm clock. I don't travel very often, but when I do, it'd be nice to have my own instead of having to rely on a wake-up call or the clock in the room, because the clocks in the room are not always the greatest. But this is kind of cool in the size and the portability. It does have a 1500 milliamp battery. It takes about 6 hours. The first time you charge it, you probably want to do about 8 hours charge, but there's a little visual indicator. The way the camera is picking this up, of course, the lights are flashing, but they don't flash in person, so you just have to bear with me on that. It deals with the refresh rate of the camera. But you can see there's a battery indicator right here, and right now it's actually fairly well charged. I'm going to go ahead and plug that in just so you can see. It alternates between the low cell in need of charge at the top and the fully charged icon at the bottom. So when it is low, it will have the other icon. But that's the actual charging when it's charging currently. So we'll take that out. So I like that it has the battery. Like I said, the first time you do it, you're probably going to want about 6 to 8 hours. But after that, I guess it depends on how depleted you allow it to get. 4 to 6 hours is reasonable. Maybe a little shorter than that, possibly. So I like that aspect. Overall, I haven't been able to stay with the clock, obviously, to watch it go on battery power continuous, but at a rough estimate, I know it makes it over 24 hours. I don't know exactly how far past that point, but it makes it probably in the neighborhood of about 30 hours roughly, just running as a clock, just sitting here like this. If you start listening to music, you're playing Bluetooth or one of the other, which we'll get into the other options here in a moment, then that may be a different time frame for you. So basically you have two speakers here, microphone and reset button on the bottom. Over here you can put in a micro SD card. You also have your auxiliary and your micro USB charging, and it comes included with this cable. So you can see it has USB and the auxiliary input, and then of course the micro USB here. So that's pretty cool the way they set that up. Other than that, what I don't like about it, you can't choose between 12 and 24 hour. So you're stuck with the 24-hour format. Not that big a deal, but it's not like, well, for me anyway, I'm still not used to, even after my family being military for so many years, still not completely used to that, so it takes me a second to think about it. On the top, you have your alarm button, your volume and your tuning button, your clock adjustment buttons. You have your play pause. Over here is the phone related and repeat, and then you have your mode button. And with the mode button, it's also your power button. So if you hold that down, you can turn that off. So that's just a quick kind of overview. The volume gets pretty loud. Of course, you're not going to get the best in bass and everything with this, but you know, for a nice little portable bedside alarm clock that you can play some Bluetooth music with, it's kind of a nice option. I just, like I said, wish that you could change the time format. That's my biggest complaint with this as a whole. That and the fact that you can't just remove the battery. Unfortunately, there's not a quick, easy way to remove the battery, because if you could do that, you could leave it plugged up and use it all the time. Because once the battery's charged, you don't want to leave it plugged in continually. It's going to affect the battery life significantly, so you can't do that. But overall, pretty nice. We'll go ahead and turn it back on.
The Bluetooth device is ready to. The Bluetooth device is connected successfully.
So that's for Bluetooth. It's connected to my phone.
FM tuner.
Slide over to Fantasy
Line in.
So that's the different modes.
Clock mode.
We'll go back to clock mode. But I don't want to play it too much. There's all these copyright issues, of course. But it gets fairly loud. The FM tuner on it works not great, but it works okay. Picks up some of the bigger stations around, but if it had an antenna, external antenna, it would pick up a considerable amount more, because my others that have an external antenna pick up a significant amount more. So that's going to be varying dependent upon your area. But because you have the micro SD card option and the Bluetooth option, and I think there's a model that, and of course you have the auxiliary in, but I think there's also a model that has a USB port on the side, so you can plug in USB. So you know, there's a lot of different options available, so that's nice. So overall, pretty good in a lot of ways. Couple of ways it falls short. Needs to have a quick and easy way to replace the battery or take the battery out so you can leave it plugged in, and it needs to have the option to change between 12 and 24-hour format. So other than that, if you want to find out more information about this, there's more details, of course, on the Amazon page. There's a link below the video. You can check that out. If you want to find out more about the actual operation, keep watching. If not, then you're done. And thank you. Alright, bear with me. I have actually several alarm clocks, so I'll do my best to give you the specifics of the function of this. So you've got your power button here, and if you hold this down, it will turn it off. I'm not going to do that now, but within a few seconds of holding it down, it will shut this off. Pushing it again will turn it back on, obviously. And then it's also your mode button, and you can switch between
Bluetooth device is
Bluetooth, FM tuner, line in,
clock mode,
and back to clock mode. So it's very easy to change the different sources through that right there. Your alarm button is here, and if you just short press that, you can see hopefully the icon again. It's going to flash, so you're not going to be able to see it as easily because of the frame rate the camera picks up. But you can turn that off and on very quick, very easy. So that's actually very simple. If you want to set the time here, you press and hold the set button, and then you get the option here, and then you can, I didn't do it in time, you can adjust up and down using your tuning buttons here, and sorry, if we hold down that button again, we can change from hour to minute. And it's got a very quick timeout. As you can see, it's already went back. So if you don't make the adjustments relatively quickly, you know, you're gonna not be able to get it set quite quickly enough. If you hold down the alarm button, you get your different options to set the time, and you cycle through that. If you hold down the play, pause, and set FM button, you get the option to set your minutes. So that's how you do that real quick. Again, it's very quick, so if you don't do it you know, relatively quickly, you're not going to get the option to set it. So that's basically how you set the time and how you set the alarm. Let's see, what else would be useful to you? The Bluetooth connection is actually pretty easy. I mean, you turn it into Bluetooth mode, search the device, connect to it, and then you know, you've got your volume and your tracks. You can see you got your play, pause. So that means it's all pretty self-explanatory in that regard. And then when you change to radio's probably going to be the biggest thing for people, because it may or may not tune in stations in your location, but basically, well, let's come back to the radio. Let's talk about the alarm real quick. If you want to snooze, you can just do a short press of the alarm button here, and if you want to stop the snooze, you can long press to stop snooze. As far as the micro SD card, pretty much when you insert that, it's going to kind of automatically kick into that mode. So that's how you're going to play that. And the line in mode, you can switch using the mode button. So, and then of course you still have your controls and everything here. I'm going to primarily use it for Bluetooth, so I'm not going to be able to give you a lot of detail on the line in and the micro SD card, but it's a cool function to have that additional option. Again, this does have the ability with the phone icon. You can take phone calls. Not something I'm going to do. Hopefully I never have to, but you can do that. So that's a pretty cool aspect and feature. So I kind of like that it has that option, but it's not something I'm going to actually use. Now the FM radio, you gotta switch to
The Bluetooth FM tuner.
I can never.
Alright, turning it all the way down. So my biggest complaint in relation to the volume adjustment is it should be short presses, not long presses, because I think that would be a little bit easier. But I don't know, that's just personal preference, I guess. But the cool thing with this, as far as the simplicity, is when you switch in to FM radio mode, you can press the FM set and play button, that little play pause button, and what it will do is it'll automatically search all of the local radio stations and save all of the local radio stations, which I think is kind of cool. And then you can see here I can cycle through using the tune button to the different the 20 different stations that it picks up. So again, the volume's down right now, but I can actually just go through all the different ones that have been picked up in my area very quick and easy. And then if I want to turn the volume up, I just hold down the volume button. So I kind of wished it didn't have that. Maybe a separate, volume button or even a wheel would be nice to have in that regard. I don't know if there's a whole lot of other thgoing that I can tell you. You're going to have to be really close to this to use this for telephone mode. That's why, not really close, but you're going to be relatively close because, it's kind of small and you may not be able to hear very well depending on how loud the volume is with it. So it's just not something that is concerning to me as much. Other than that, there's not a whole lot else. It says EQ here. I don't really know what that is going to do. Perhaps it deals only when you're using the line in or the SD card, micro SD card, but by any means.
Line. Clock mode.
So, I don't know, the voice prompts are nice, but they're a little funny sounding. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off by holding it down. So, but that's pretty much everything I can think of that is relevant. It's not going to be my everyday use, definitely, because you've got to constantly keep it charged. You can't leave it plugged in, but it does come with a decent length cable to charge it with. Other than that, I don't know. The LEDs show up pretty well at night, so you don't have to worry about that. And it gets fairly loud, but again, you're not going to get the best bass music playback from this being so small. Other than that, we fumbled our way through the functionality of the clock. So if you watched it this long, thanks for sticking around. All right.